given his presentation at the German Bundestag regarding the value proposition of Bitcoin, even for the political arena, for the political elite, in this case with Germany. Now, this is very interesting because he's actually, his company, Jan3, as well as himself, he's at the forefront in engaging these educational awareness type explanations around Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin it can bring to governments and nation states, not just on the developing world, which is where he's actually started out on this journey, but also with the, the First Nations, the developed world nations, where they should actually not be left behind, because as he explained, the actual impetus is starting out with the developing nations because they have more of a drive, an economic drive and incentive to mine Bitcoins in those territories, particularly tapping into the abundant natural resources that they have on offer, such that they can use that to their advantage in terms of creating economic wealth in the country via mining Bitcoins and indeed holding on to those mined Bitcoins into their national reserves, right? Which is what the developing nations are doing, and is being explained by Samson Mao and Jan3. He's actually repositioning his political argument of Bitcoin in a different way, more of a preservation of wealth and capital in developed nations like Germany, US, and the rest of the nations of Europe, for instance. He's slightly repositioning his argument on those levels, which makes sense, really, because sooner or later, all nation states, and we couldn't care less whether they're from the developing world or from the developed world, everyone is actually, all nation states at some point are going to be engaged in some form or shape on mining Bitcoins and reserving Bitcoins to create that national wealth so they can do other things, right? Like paying off the national debt. And this is actually very interesting. And you can see he went on to different types of elements in his presentation, all the way from starting out explaining the history of money. He's actually used some of the analogies from the Bitcoin Standard Book from Safety and Amos, which if you haven't already, I'd greatly encourage you to get hold of the book and read it, because it gives you a complete beginning to the present day of modern economics, the history of money, the various stages of evolution on money, starting off with beads and yap stones into gold and more precious metals, into present day fiat currency, which is a paper form of money, and now why gold is no longer relevant in the preservation of wealth as a store of wealth. Now it's Bitcoin. So I strongly recommend that you get hold of the book and read through it, because that would be a complete eye-opener, particularly for the new prospective investors who are starting to now consider about allocating some of their wealth into Bitcoin. Very, very interesting debates, and you can see this is the style of Samson Mao's explanation on the value of Bitcoin, what it could bring in terms of incentives and advantages to every type of nations. The whole point is they need to recognize that they need to do something about it and acquire as many of the Bitcoins that they can in order to guarantee wealth preservation and even wealth growth. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's episode. I just wanted to bring you this kind of style of presentation, this style of explanation from leading Bitcoin experts like Samson Mao. There are many others out there, and everyone are doing their bit to raise that level of awareness and understanding as to what is Bitcoin, what is the value of Bitcoin to every type of individual, company, nation state, and why they should definitely consider allocating part of their wealth, in line with their risk appetite of course, into Bitcoin as a store of value in the long run. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and even share this video, because I put an awful lot of effort to make these sort of podcasts a reality to investors out there. So until next time,